Missed opportunity for the Abbotsford Canucks, who can't close out Colorado, falling 3-1 to the Eagles. So this best of 5 is going to be settled on Monday afternoon. Let's break down tonight's game. This is Rink Wide. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Studios in downtown Vancouver on a Friday night. Hope you got plans to join us on Monday afternoon. The Abbotsford Canucks and the Colorado Eagles, they're going the distance after the Eagles came up with a fairly inspired 3-1 victory on home ice to stave off elimination. As I said off the top, a missed opportunity for the Abbotsford Canucks, but that's why the win on Wednesday in overtime was so important. They had a loss to give. Colorado didn't, and Colorado looked the part of the regular season Pacific Division champs, scored early, were able to defend well. Abbotsford didn't have its best stuff tonight, let's be honest. It's been a terrific run to this point, and it's not done. It's now win and move on, or lose and go home on Monday, Memorial Day Monday, down in the United States. It is Rink Wide. Dave Hall from Canucks Army is going to join us here momentarily, and we'll get his thoughts as we do after each and every one of these Canucks games in the AHL playoffs. Rink Wide, a presentation of Bet365. If you want to get in on the action on the Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365, they've got you from game props to player props, totals, the money line. You can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champs, the Stanley Cup champions, and so much more. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Must be 19 years or older. The YouTube live chat, it is hopping as usual, and we appreciate everybody weighing in there. If you have something that you really want to say, that you want us to read, if you got a comment or a question, a thought on this game or this series, you know this. Hit us up with a super chat. We've had a terrific charity partner all season long, and hopefully that will continue into the next round, but that's going to be up to the Abbotsford Canucks, and we'll see if we keep doing this for another round here in the playoffs. But our charity partner, the BC Mental Health Foundation. And as I said, they have been awesome partners for us all year long. So again, if you've got a comment or a question and you want to get it to the top of the queue, slight donation and part proceeds going to the BC Mental Health Foundation. All right. Starts have been an issue for this Abbotsford team throughout the playoffs. We have mentioned this. They're 5-0 when they open the scoring. Unfortunately, they've given up the first goal in games more often than they have opened the scoring in the postseason. Now, not always how you start, it is how you finish. And the other night, they never led. Didn't have a lead for a second the other night, but did win that one in overtime. So it can be done. But again, Colorado made business. This was the top team in the division, the best home ice team in the American Hockey League all regular season, highest scoring team in the AHL. And they came out firing. They opened the scoring 3 minutes and 36 seconds in. Jean-Luc Foudy at the side of the net after a wraparound attempt. He was able to get a stick and just tuck it inside the post on Artur Silovs, who couldn't get across and seal off that post there. So Colorado got the start it was looking for, as it has done in 3 of the 4 games this series. Early starts and early goals. We'll have more on that a little bit later on when we get to our stat that stands out. Remained 1-0 through the opening period. So it was 1-0 after 1. Stayed 1-0 into the middle stages of the second period. But stop me if you've heard this before. Canucks got a power play and did absolutely nothing with it. Like, really disappointing power play. Abbotsford had 4 shots for the longest time in the second period, and that included 2 full minutes on the power play. I know there's 2 teams out there, so give Colorado credit. They've been aggressive on their penalty kill throughout this series, but Abbotsford's going to have to find a way. If they get power plays on Monday, you got to put the hammer down, and you just got to look dangerous and sort of harness some momentum, if nothing else. But a ton of one and done, and Colorado with some easy clears, forcing Abbotsford down the ice. Had to go all the way back, collect the puck. So it stayed 1-0 till the middle stages. And Jason Magna, yes, that Jason Magna, who scored an empty netter earlier in the series, but really that had been his only offensive contribution. He capitalized on a Akito Hirose turnover, and Magna with a shot from the slot, 11:44 into the second period, made it 2-0. And at that point, you knew that Abbotsford was in tough. Now, they've got enough firepower and there was enough time left that they could have come back. But as I said, they just didn't have their best stuff in this hockey game. It happens, and maybe you get this one out of the way and bounce back. And look, this team has earned the benefit of the doubt what they've played, the way they've played down the stretch and here in the playoffs. So it was 2-0. Looked like it might be 2-0 after 2, but a really undisciplined penalty by Danila Klimovic, who'd been a healthy scratch earlier in the playoffs, inserted back into the lineup. I don't know if we see Danila Klimovic in a deciding game on Monday. Just a dumb roughing penalty late in the second period. At 2-0, Abbotsford still in this hockey game. But for the first time in 11 games here in the postseason, the Canucks penalty kill cracked. Gave up a power play goal. Taken 11 games, 31 opportunities. So credit to the guys that have done all the heavy lifting. But, it couldn't last forever. And Ty Felber gets his fourth of the playoffs. So with 35 seconds to go, wrist shot off left wing. Moments after Max Asson and Arshdeep Bains and combined on a 2-on-1. Bains going hard to the net. And Colorado, we're watching the live stream here, 4-on-2 in transition. And they're able to move the puck around. And ultimately, it's Felber, who had a terrific opening series against San Jose, but really hadn't done much in this series to this point. And that was another storyline here, that Colorado's best players showed up and found the score sheet. And now it's going to be back to Abbotsford to respond on Monday afternoon. So 3-0 after 2. Looked like it might end 3-0, but Nate Smith does get Abbotsford on the board. Gave them a little life, a 4-on-4 goal with 6 minutes to play on the doorstep. Found a loose puck and was able to stuff it home past Trent Miner. But that was it. And then the final minute, some message sending on both sides. Canucks lost their discipline a little. Sammy Blais, you heard that before. Been an interesting playoffs for Sammy Blais. It's been an interesting series for Sammy Blais as well. But no question about it. Abbotsford needs its best players to be better than they were in this hockey game. And quite frankly, some of those guys better than they've been in the playoffs to this point. We'll get into that more with Dave Hall coming up momentarily. But end of the night, 3-1 is the final score. Series is tied at 2. And again, with the holiday in the States on Monday, it's a 2:00 start Pacific, 3:00 down in Loveland, Colorado. Winner is going to advance to the AHL Western Conference Final. And the loser, well, that is going to be it. Over and out. All right. Before we get to Dave, I want to mention the Pacific Toyota dealers who want me to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X. 100% electric. It's backed by the peace of mind of knowing it is a Toyota, and that spark of joy you get when you pass a gas station knowing that you don't have to stop. You can sort of smirk at all those people that are pulling off the highway. You keep cruising right along, and you're doing it in style with a vehicle that has all sorts of cargo capacity for the kids and all their sports gear, room for the dogs as well. And the BZ4X can handle any terrain, so it can take you from the city to the slopes or wherever your life takes you. When you choose the BZ4X, you can get $5,000 in incentives, and now you can finance a 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.99% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. All right, we'll get to the 3-star selection and the stat that stands out. We'll look around the American Hockey League playoffs as well. But before we go any further, it's time to bring in Dave Hall from Canucks Army. We'll have his Farmies, a full post-game report online a little bit later on, but he's with us here right now. Dave, I think we were both hoping to be talking about an Abbotsford team that was punching the ticket to the Final Four. Alas, they got to play on Monday because Colorado, credit where it's due, Colorado Eagles were the better team in this hockey game tonight.
Yeah, they were a better team for most of that game. It's a shame. We talked about it last time where, for once we were just really hoping that they'd come out strong. And, it looked like they did for a moment there. Jujhar Khaira got the best look of the period for them by far, got off to a nice breakaway. So, I thought for a second that, hey, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the time they start strong. And, of course, right away, Colorado goes down and scores. And from that moment on, they were chasing. It just felt they were sloppy. They were chasing that entire game. Every single time that they'd finally get some momentum, it seemed that, they either let in a goal or they took an undisciplined penalty, especially towards the second half of that game. So all in all, not your best, as you mentioned, not their best stuff. And, it's an unfortunate ending because, they were in a pretty good spot here with 2 games to go. But, luckily, that's why they had that game in hand, so they have one more chance to do this. So hopefully on Monday it's a different story.
Yeah, Jujhar Khaira with a clear-cut breakaway 2 minutes into the hockey game. Trent Miner makes really what turned out to be his best save on the night. He wasn't terribly busy. Abbotsford didn't do a great job of testing him beyond that. There was also that chance when it was 1-0, Cole McWard with a shot. It was in the blue paint. Puck was lying loose momentarily. The overhead view was terrific, and Miner just kind of, in desperation, leaned back and was able, and fortunate that he was able to cover the puck. So that was sort of the night for Abbotsford that, when there were opportunities, they couldn't cash in. And at the other end of the ice, it was Colorado's better players. Look, yeah. Ty Felleber had been really quiet to this point in the series. Jason Magna had the empty netter. But those guys and Matthew Phillips each had 6 points in the opening round against San Jose. They were tied for the team lead. And credit to Abbotsford, had done a nice job of keeping Colorado's top guns in check. And we've said this so many times, this is the highest scoring team in the American Hockey League in the regular season. And yet these games have been relatively low scoring. So, Abbotsford's done a nice job defensively, and I wrote a piece earlier in the week that Abbotsford's top guns were going to have to find another level. Yeah, they got 3 the other night, and that was enough, but this is 14 goals in the last 6 games. If you do some math there, that's not a ton of offense when you consider 3 of the 14 goals for Abbotsford have been empty netters. So take those out of the equation. That leaves you with 11 goals in the last 6, not even an average of 2 per game in the run of play. That puts a ton of pressure on the goaltending, on your defensive structure, and ultimately it is hard to win hockey games with just 2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, eventually those players were going to finally, for Colorado rather, they're eventually going to get, their ticket. So eventually, they took advantage, and credit to them. We knew it was going to happen, and it was just up to Abbotsford to, step up and get those goal scorers. You can't just rely on Arturs Silovs to, get shutouts or your penalty kill to go perfect every single game. So eventually it was just going to crack. And it's just a shame, you got guys like Archdeep Bains, who still doesn't have a goal this entire playoffs. Guy like Sammy Blais, who we've credited him all playoffs. And then this series rather, he's just been a little undisciplined and off. He must be, I believe he's up to almost 30 penalty minutes in this series. And, he's not scoring either. And so, thank goodness Lekerimäki's finally got going, but it just seems the moment that someone starts getting going, someone takes a back seat again. So, we finally got Max Sasson, who got a goal, Lekerimäki, and now none of the other guys are scoring. So they need to find one more game where they can get a full team effort here. And unfortunately tonight was just not that.
No, when I look at the final box score, Max Sasson, 3 shots for the 4th straight game. He's had 3 in every game in this series, but not his best stuff. He and Bains did have that 2-on-1 shorthanded that turned around and ended up being the Felleber power play goal. Archdeep had 3 shots, although I don't really remember an awful lot of the opportunities that he had in this hockey game. And then, some discipline problems in the third period, certainly when the game was basically out of reach, and it felt like some message sending. But you probably heard me say, and I'm just curious to get your thoughts on the lack of discipline on the part of Danila Klimovic in a 2-0 hockey game late in the second period. Like just a blatant punch to the head of Calle Rosen. No need for it. 2-0, they weren't out of this hockey game by any stretch of the imagination, but when Colorado scored the power play goal to go up 3-0, certainly felt like it wasn't going to be Abbotsford's night. And you just can't afford. You can't afford to take those types of penalties. And so I do wonder about Klimovic's spot in the lineup for a one-game winner-take-all on Monday afternoon.
Well, I think Manny Malhotra probably agrees with you. I don't believe we saw him in the third period, and not that that's a shocker, but he was definitely in the doghouse. And, it was very frustrating because that wasn't their best stuff in that entire period. They were hemmed in for much of that period. They only generated, I believe it was 3 shots up to that point, and that was almost a full period of play. And it seemed like they were finally starting to get some momentum built. Like during that play, even in the replay, you can see the play. There was a play starting to shape up, and they actually had some decent sustained pressure late in the second period. And he just turns around. I get it. He had his stick being held. You can say whatever excuse you want, but that's just very undisciplined. And that's always been a bit of a hindrance on his game, to be honest. That goes back to before he was drafted. One of his big things is that he just he loses his cool from time to time, and that's just that moment that it shows. It's just such a bad time, and I agree with you. I think at this point, it was a great call to put him in. Hopefully, get stir some offense. Hasn't worked, and then he cost you a goal at that point, and potentially the game at that point, because it's hard to come back from 3 after 2 periods. So I wouldn't be shocked if he's around the doghouse next game.
I don't think anybody can really be surprised that this thing's going the distance. These teams were separated by 2 points in the regular season standings. Abbotsford had one more win, but Colorado got home ice because they had more points, but they were that close. Colorado responded to the Game 1 loss with a solid effort in Game 2, responded again here. Now it's on Abby to respond. This is a team that has responded. When you think of the last 28 games, regular season, and here in the playoffs, they had a 13-game win streak. They just haven't lost back-to-back. I think it's happened once in the last 2 months. So, if you're looking for things to believe in with this Abbotsford team, it's just that they've been resilient. They have answered the call when they've been pushed. And this fact that they faced elimination in the opening round. Remember that best of 3? They lost Game 2 against Tucson and then shut them out in Game number 3 to move on to the next round with an exclamation point. So it was a tough one here, but you hope that you get it out of the way. Kind of weird the way the scheduling works that, now they have to wait until Monday. So a weekend goes by down in Loveland, Colorado. I don't know what they'll do to occupy their time and keep themselves busy. I'm sure there'll be a practice or 2 in there, but otherwise it's the waiting game, and I'm sure all these guys would like to fast forward to Monday afternoon to get going here. But again, I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, but you shocked that this thing's going the distance?
No, it's as you just laid out perfectly there. It's the best team in the Western Conference, if not the league. So you got to give credit to Abbotsford for even being in this series. To be quite honest, they could have easily, just surrendered and let the best team do its thing. And at the same time, it's a little bit of a shame too, because Colorado was the best team, they hadn't played a lot of hockey in the last couple of weeks coming into the series. They got a first round bye. They did fairly well against San Jose, so manhandled them pretty easily. So coming into the series, I believe they only played 3, maybe 4 games in a couple weeks span. So it felt like a good opportunity for Abbotsford, who had played some good momentum hockey, to come in and maybe take the series a little sooner than now, but it is what it is. We love a game. Well, technically Game 7, technically Game 5, but we love a Game 5, and it should be a good matinee Monday game. So,
all right. We have broken every game down here through the playoffs. We've talked about all of the individuals. Look, the reason Abbotsford's here is because they have been this team. It really hasn't been star power that's got them to an elimination game with a chance to move on to the Final Four. It's the 15 different guys who've scored. There has been, a different hero on a lot of different nights here. But as we step back, and with a couple of days before Game 5, just give me a guy or two based on what you've seen that you think absolutely has to sort of be a leader for this Abbotsford team to advance on Monday.
Well, Archie Baines, right off the hop, I think it's just time for him to step up. He was their leading scorer, or point getter, I should say, throughout the entire regular season. He's looked pretty good at the AHL level. He is a point producer, and he's, an elevated player at the American League level. So, he's a guy that has to come up and step up. So he's going to be my number one right off the hop. I think Linus Karlsson is another guy that, he scored the overtime winner last game. He's got to step up and have a little bit more of a game here. I didn't really notice him much tonight, and that's not a good sign for. I mean, I guess we could say that about a couple of the veterans, but Linus Karlsson, he's a guy that really needs to get in those board battles, get himself engaged, get some big hits, and I don't really think I saw him much this game. So I think he's a guy that I would like to see a little more crash and bang from, and hopefully, a goal or two. But at the same time, those are two guys, but you can really just say that about a lot of their veterans that, basically led the way for a long time. It would be nice to see Sammy Blais be a little more disciplined there. Obviously, he's their leading point getter in the playoffs, so he's definitely a guy. But I think those are going to be the game changers. We've seen a lot from Jonathan Lekkerimäki finally, so he's holding up his end of the bargain, and obviously RD Seelovs is holding up his end. So I think it's time for the veterans to step up and score some goals.
Yeah, well, let's see if they can open the scoring and arrive on time. It's a 3:05 local time, 2 p.m. back here on the West Coast. So I know where I'll be, and I know where you'll be, and we'll reconvene. And who knows what we'll be talking about on Monday. We'll be talking about the next round or an opportunity that absolutely slipped away from this Abbotsford team that had 2 cracks against Colorado. They've used one of those cracks now with this 3-1 loss, but still in it, still with a chance, and absolutely reasons to believe. I believe I'll be checking out the Farmies a little bit later on when we're done here with Rink Wide. Dave's got the comprehensive recap and all the highlights as well. So we look forward to doing that. Enjoy your weekend, Dave, and we'll do this again on Monday.
Yeah, we'll see you Monday afternoon for a nice matinee game.
There you go. Dave Hall of Canucks Army stopping by as he has here throughout the playoffs, and we appreciate all of that. Let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game. Clean sweep in the building, not a surprise there, and as you'll see momentarily, a clean sweep here on Rink Wide as well. But the 3 stars, I'm not sure who's picking them, that Jason Magna, Jean-Luc Foudy, and Trent Miner are the 3 stars. Our 3 stars similar, but a little bit different. I just thought Ty Felleber was finally introduced himself into this series. I expected to see more of him earlier on, but hadn't happened to this point. But he gets the first power play goal against Abbotsford in these playoffs, so maybe by virtue of that, he gets the first star nod, because Jason Magna, again, takes the giveaway by Akito Hirose midway through the second, made no mistakes, snapped it home. He had the 8 shots the other night, couldn't score, but gets his 5th of the playoffs, so Jason Magna finds his way onto the score sheet, and Trent Miner, did what he had to do. As we said, he wasn't busy. It was a bit of an underwhelming offensive performance by Abbotsford, credit to the Colorado defense. But Abby finishes with 23 shots, and Trent Miner able to stop 22 of them. Only Nate Smith in a 4-on-4 situation was able to beat him. So Felleber, Magna, and Miner, the 3 stars. And if there's not some Abbotsford players in the 3 stars on Monday, that doesn't bode well. But we'll see what happens, and we'll have a 3-star selection after Game 5 as well. The 3 stars are brought to you by Greta Bar. And on Saturday, tomorrow, or if you're listening to the podcast, maybe it's today, but Saturday, May 24th, Greta turns 3, and they're throwing their own birthday bash. You're invited to help them celebrate 3 years of Greta, $3 drinks from 8 until 10 o'clock, giveaways, surprises. You can be in the room, you have to be in the room, for your chance to win one of 10 VIP Greta experiences. It all takes place this Saturday at Greta, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar, the place to be. Disappointing result for Abbotsford. Would have been terrific. And just logistically, had they won and moved on, they could have flown home from Colorado tomorrow. Now they have to stick it out through the Memorial Day long weekend down there. They'll play on Monday, and then I would imagine fly home on Tuesday. We'll see where things go, and we'll check the out-of-town scoreboard and the other series coming up here in a moment. But, some time. And time to review some game film. I'm sure Manny Malhotra and his staff will do just that. But really, when you get down to a one-game winner-take-all, so often it's goaltending, so often it's special teams, and ultimately, you need your best players to be difference makers. Arshdeep Bains, this has been bizarre, and we've talked about him throughout the playoffs, but nothing's changing. Like, this isn't like a guy that's snake-bitten. He's just having zero impact on any of these games, expected so much more from Arshdeep Bains. Hopefully, we're not saying that on Monday afternoon. Sammy Blais, all of his goals in the playoffs came in the opening round against Tucson. They've all come on the power play as well. He's gone 8 without a goal, and too many times in this series has just let the emotions get the better of him. Well, in a game 5, we talked about the importance of discipline, and you just can't take bad penalties. I mean, Blay took consecutive penalties in the third period, got a misconduct again. He's had 3 misconducts in this series alone, so he's up over 50 penalty minutes now in the playoffs. It still leads Abbotsford in scoring. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not dumping on his overall playoff performance, but this is a team that's not scoring a lot of goals. And so when you look at the candidates, Sammy Blay is certainly one of them. He needs to be better. He needs to channel his energy properly, and he's got to find his way to make an impact on Monday afternoon. All right, let's get to the stat that stands out, because this one to me is interesting, but it's also a little bit troubling. And the stat that stands out is that Abbotsford has allowed a goal against in the opening 5 minutes in 3 straight games. Like, we talk about the need for a better start. It's tough at playoff time when you're falling behind, especially as a team that's not generating a ton of offense. You spot the other guy's a goal. Well, playoff hockey, now you need 2. And 2 has kind of been the number for this Abbotsford team. And got 3 the other night, but it took overtime, and here got 1 in this hockey game. So, you think of Abbotsford and the playoff success, and we've been doing this after every game here in the postseason, but 3 straight games, 1 minute and 57 seconds, 4:22. Tonight it was 3 minutes and 36 seconds. Beyond that, this is the 5th time in 11 playoff games that the Abbotsford Canucks have given up a goal in the first 5 minutes. So not just this series, this has happened way too often. And I mentioned it earlier, they've given up the first goal more than they have scored it. So they've been good at battling back and chipping away, but come on, force the issue. Get out in front, apply the pressure, and find a way to get a lead. Abbotsford has not played with the lead you got to go back to game 1. You got to go back to, because, they didn't have a lead in game 2. Never had a lead. So this is 3 straight games now that Abbotsford has not played with the lead. That's not a recipe for success on Monday afternoon. Stat that stands out is brought to you by Resurrection Spirits, and you've heard us talking about bogey juice for a while now here on Rink Wide. Now it's time for you to get on the bogey train, and trust me, it's a bogey train that you're going to be okay being on. Bogey juice, a remarkable blend of crisp apple and kicking ginger combined with simple syrup and top shelf vodka, as the company likes to say. It's a hole-in-one for your taste buds. You can drink it neat or on the rocks. You can mix in some soda there as well. Your choice, but make sure you stock up on bogey juice. And to get you started, you can use the code SP15, get 15% off bogey juice product and merchandise. Check out bogeyjuice.com. We got a super chat. Want to get to that here as we move through. Hugo Mugo again, coming up with the super chat, donating $5 to the BC Mental Health Foundation, and we appreciate that. Turnover Central tonight. Looking forward to Monday. Thanks for the show. Again, Abbotsford wasn't sharp, but there's 2 teams out there, and so I give Colorado credit, and I keep coming back to this notion that I'm not shocked that this thing's going the distance. These teams, not much to separate, and they have alternated, having their good stuff and not so good stuff. Crazy123 says, who comes out for Klimovich if he's coming in? Cam Bites has been the guy, and an AHLer, but he's had moments for Manny Malhotra. Hasn't done a whole lot here in the playoffs, but my guess is that would be the 1-for-1 swap. Again, no news on Atu Ratu, but if he was available, it would be huge. But at this stage, I'm not expecting. I don't think he's on the road trip. And so it's not like they've got a ton of options down at the bottom of the lineup. But again, Klimovich, who led this team in regular season goals with 25, has won in the playoffs, and he just hasn't looked particularly dangerous. V-Rob says offense has lost their mojo this round, and they have. They've been winning with defense. We talked about Artie Silovs with the back-to-back shutouts, the elimination game last round and the first game of this series. But even those were both 1-0 hockey games until empty net. So, that again puts a ton of pressure on the goaltender. You're leaving teams hanging around, a bounce here or there. Now they were able to win those hockey games, but game 2, Colorado came right back, got the early lead, and then took control in the second period. The other night, another early goal. Give Abbotsford credit. They didn't let Colorado extend its lead at any point, and that was huge. But that's the danger when you give up the first goal early is that, hey, maybe they get the next one as well. And now all of a sudden you're down 2-0. I don't think they want to see that on Monday afternoon. So looking forward to it. We'll be here to break it all down when the game and the series are done. Again, lots of you in the chat tonight. I think, look, this has been a terrific season. It's been a nice run. We're not going to write the obit at all. They one game to advance to the Western Conference Final. And there's certainly enough guys that have touched NHL ice here. Those are the ones that I look at to be difference makers. And on the back end, just look at the veterans that they've got. Christian Wolanin's back and playing. This guy's been through the battles in the NHL and the AHL, top defenseman in the American Hockey League. And then you've got Victor Mancini, who's had a really nice playoff run. Like everybody, it wasn't his best night. Didn't notice him good or bad. Just wasn't a factor in the hockey game. Guillaume Brisebois, Akito Hirose made the mistake. Want to see a little bit more. And, we saw the other night, like in overtime, Jet Wu coughed up a puck and Magna was stopped in a breakaway. Those are the sorts of miscues from veteran guys that they have to eliminate when they get back at it on Monday. So the stage is set. This is what you love about playoff hockey. And look, the big league team didn't qualify for the postseason, so I think a lot of Canuck fans sort of living and dying with this Abbotsford team that has its hands full, certainly against Colorado, but has every reason to believe that they can come up with the win that they need on Monday to advance to the next round. Now, Colorado's got reasons to believe as well. Best players starting to show up offensively. They were the best home ice team in the American Hockey League in the regular season. And, they played all year to get home ice, to get a game like this one in their building. I meant to look at the attendance in Loveland, Colorado tonight. The other night, it was just over 5,000. We'll see if we can come up with the attendance in this hockey game tonight. Just looking at the box score here. The beauty of live streaming. Did they fill in the attendance? Yeah, 5,089. So essentially, I guess that's a sellout because that's the same announced attendance as there was in there on Wednesday. So I would expect that with the holiday Monday, you're going to see that same sort of crowd count. But I don't know that crowd of 5,000 is a massive factor one way or the other, but it is home ice for the Colorado Eagles, and we'll see if they can take advantage or if Abbotsford can take 2 of 3 down there just outside. It's about an hour north of Denver, Colorado. All right, I mentioned that we take a look around the Calder Cup playoffs. Milwaukee beat Texas 2-1 in overtime. The Admirals were down 1-0 with 6 to play and facing elimination, but they end up winning in overtime to force that series to the limit on Sunday. So they're going to play on Sunday on the long weekend. Milwaukee is at home, so that one at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee, it's still called the Bradley Center. Rochester stayed alive with a 5-1 win at Laval. So that series is going to be decided on Sunday as well. And that would be a significant upset. Laval, the top team in the AHL in the overall standings. The other night, Charlotte swept higher-seeded Hershey with a 6-3 road win. And that eliminated the 2-time defending Calder Cup champs. So that is the way she goes. One team was able to get through in 3 games. The other 3 series are all going the distance. It's a shame that we don't get post-game at this level. I'd love to know the thoughts of Manny Malhotra and what he saw from his hockey club. And, were there some areas that he liked? They didn't go quietly. So we saw a little bit of message sending. Is 1 goal in the third period enough to feel like it's something to build off? At this stage, you got to take whatever you can and use it to your advantage. But when it comes down to a single elimination game like this one, again, it's going to come back to goaltending. Artur Silovs has been good in the playoffs. Don't know that he's been great in this series outside of the shutout in game number 1. I suppose after he gave up the early goal and a bit of a weak one the other night, went into lockdown mode, so I don't want to be too hard on Artur Silovs, but this is a guy that, this time last year was playing NHL playoffs. 2 years ago, it was the World Championships. He has shown an ability to rise to the occasion, and I'm sure Abbotsford wants to believe that they've got an edge in goal, but Trent Miner, the former Vancouver Giant, He's been good in this series as well. So we'll see who blinks in terms of the goaltending showdown then. And yeah, I mean, every guy that suits up wants to believe that he can swing the result in his team's favor and be a difference maker. And ultimately, we'll see how it all shakes out on Monday. Again, 3 o'clock local time, but 2:05 Pacific. And then we'll be on whenever the game's over. So sometime in the late afternoon, we'll be here in the Rink Wide studios and do what we always do, breaking it down. Special teams. We talked about the importance of special teams. Abbotsford's power play wasn't very good in this one. Colorado ends up going 1 for 4 on the man advantage, but we know that Abbotsford's penalty kill has been a huge strength for that hockey club all through these playoffs. So want to believe that it can be again in Game 5 on Monday. Colorado wound up out shooting Abbotsford 29-23. Those were the final numbers from this hockey game. You can see that along the top here if you're watching on the live stream. Test Trent Miner a little bit more. Pepper him. Abbotsford had 8 shots midway through this hockey game. Like, not enough, not anywhere close to enough. So throw this one away. If there are things that Manny Malhotra wants to take out of the game, fine. But for the most part, I think you just wipe the slate clean. You turn to your leaders and ask them to rise to the occasion. And this is what we love about sports and playoff hockey is it's all up for grabs on Monday. The stakes are high, and Abbotsford's still alive here, still a chance to move on to the Western Conferenc Final that would be a best of 7, and then, of course, the Calder Cup Final is a best of 7 as well. But this series is a best of 5. They each have 2 victories, and we'll see who comes up with a third win in a few days' time. We've told you here throughout our run on Rink Wide that the Abbey Canucks aren't the only team that is playing. They're the only hockey team still playing in these parts. But the Vancouver Canadians are doing their thing. They've fallen on some hard times of late, but they're going to be back home, get some home cooking, and hopefully turn things in the right direction. They're down in Eugene now, but they're at home starting on Tuesday, May 27th, when they host Hillsborough. That homestand includes a fireworks night, a We Care Wednesday, a Friday nooner, and a family fun Sunday when the kids get to run the bases after the ball game. For full game schedule, promo schedule, and for tickets, check out CanadiansBaseball.com. All right. Well, 11 games in the books here in this playoff run for the Abbotsford Canucks. Are 7-4. I mean, they have done well. They've played well. And let's hope that they've got one more win in them to move on. So we'll see how things go. But on this night, they came up short. But, it's not all on them. Colorado was desperate. They knew that they needed a win. They went out and they got it. So I'm looking for a better start. If I'm looking at keys to Monday already, I would say a better start. And that doesn't mean opening the scoring early, but it means not giving up a goal early. Hold your own. Force the play. Dictate the play and the tempo. Push the pace. Spend most of or more time in the offensive zone making some things happen, because that just didn't happen enough in this hockey game. Special teams and top players. It's pretty simple. It all comes down to that. We can talk about it all weekend. I'm sure we will over at Canucks Army. Dave Hall's going to have the Farmies. There will be more articles written throughout the weekend. And then, of course, on Monday, the time for talk is over. Drop the puck and get after it. And then the time for talk will be afterwards when we get back on our horse here, breaking things down. Want to thank those that contributed to a super chat tonight for the BC Mental Health Foundation. That is all appreciated, as it has been all season long. And it all comes down to this. One game. Winner take all Monday. That's when we're going to be back. Hopefully you all have a great weekend. Enjoy it. And then make sure you join us for a full recap after Game 5 on Monday. My thanks to Dave Hall for joining us a little earlier on. Jacob Lazar is the technical producer and the guiding hand behind getting us up and running here on the live stream. My name is Jeff Patterson. Thanks so much for joining us tonight and throughout this postseason run. To make sure you're back with us on Monday for the next episode of Rink Wide.